Thank you.
Hello. Every time I grab a mic, I have to make a loud noise, so good morning. This is kind of a different one for me. It's in my hometown. I've been doing a lot of speaking lately, and it's been all over the place, and usually I don't have so many friends here. And they think that they're gonna stand along the back wall and make funny faces at me. So I'm gonna ask them to come up here because there's beautiful yoga mats. Come on. Yeah, come on, Max. Yeah, that's you. You're like looking to them, like what? Yeah, friends. Yay, friends. I want that cute baby to come up here too. Hi, baby. Hi, baby. Oh, you're so cool, Michael. Thank you, first off, Creative Mornings, for doing this. Really feel honored to be asked to speak amongst all the other speakers and be a part of such a cool organization. Thank you, Del Rey, and thank you for everyone for showing up to listen to me say whatever it is that I'm about to say. My name's Jason. I'm the founder of Delivery Dudes. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story and Delivery Dude's story, and I'm going to try to say the word water as much as possible. That's my plan so far. Water is an interesting one. Clearly it changes and affects all of our lives very much, including this morning when I had this grand vision of me on stage yelling good morning in Old School Square, usually where I'm dancing around to a drum circle. I don't know if you guys are ever part, but Wednesday nights there's a really cool drum circle right here, and I had this vision of me like up on stage. But okay, so the story goes, like water, everything flows and changes. And my story is, I'm sure, different than others, but I think all of our lives continue to take twists and turns. I'm not gonna go all the way back for my mom's sake, who, my mom is here, by the way, which is very cool. I put her through a lot of changes. And I'm gonna start back in high school. So just real quick, I went to 4 different high schools, or 5 maybe. And it wasn't because like we lived in the military or something like that. It was because I was asked not to come back to a lot of those schools. And through that, and I'll probably tie that back into the story at some point, but it's not easy going through so much change and flow. You got to kind of go with it. Every year, a new school, every year, new kids, a lot of things going on at home, a lot of things going on. You know, obviously being in high school is maybe the worst time of life ever. But then I get out of high school, luckily, barely, and I go to work for my family, who's in the clothing industry. And the clothing industry can be cool, but for me it was cool. It was just an amazing experience all around, but I learned a lot about what I didn't want to do, being in the clothing industry. And the reason is because we were in the men's tailored clothing industry. So we made, yeah, believe it or not, yes, I wore a suit every day. No one believes me when I say that. But I wore a suit and tie every single day, and we made suits. And let me just give you a quick breakdown of how that industry works. So we were licensees and like wholesalers for the most part. And how that works is we make suits, God knows where around the world, wherever it's cheapest. And then we have labels like Ralph Lauren and Calvin Klein and Michael Kors and all these labels that you guys know of. And What we do is we're making all these suits everywhere around the world, and we have buyers come in from Men's Warehouse and Macy's and all the big retailers that you guys have heard of. And they come in and they say, and we say, oh, here, buy these Ralph Lauren suits, right? And we have these little swatch books and stuff like that. And we say the Ralph Lauren suits are $150 at wholesale. And they're like, okay, cool, we'll take some Ralph Lauren suits. And then they walk out of that showroom, the same showroom, all right? And we take the same swatches and we walk out the back door and we walk in the Calvin Klein showroom, all right, with Calvin Klein labels on them now. And we're like, these are $135. And depending on what they buy, we quickly call the factory and we say, all right, put the Calvin Klein labels in those suits and put the Ralph Lauren labels in those suits. It was all margin. Everything was margin. How much could you sell? Who could you sell it to? It was very cutthroat, salesy, and in a way beautiful. I used to try to tell myself, like, man, like, you know, people wearing a different suit or something or tie. I really cared about the ties because they were so colorful and beautiful, and I really latched on to that part of the business. But I was like, man, people can express themselves through this, and I tried to like kind of gravitate toward that positivity. But at the end of the day, it was just it was a very difficult industry to be in, and I was a part of a very large company, and it was just cutthroat in the sense of if you didn't perform, you're out, and everyone's scared of their jobs. And I was just young and naive, and you know, I dare to say ignorant. Yeah, definitely ignorant enough to believe that I could do something different. No, if I ran this business, everyone would be happy. If I ran this business, I would take better care of my employees and staff. And if I want to run a business that I believe in and that doesn't, I don't think, hurt people. So I like learned all these things that I didn't want to do, and I also saw a lot of things that I eventually, as I scaled a business, you know, realized that you have to do. So my time at the clothing industry kind of ended pretty abruptly with me just like having a freak out and quitting one day. Which, yes, I'm a very emotional being. And it's not, yeah, you need to manage that, but. So I left and I went to the other extreme. And some of you guys, for those of you who know me, know the story, but I moved to California. And I moved to California to grow lots of weed. And I think that was like, that's like 8, 9, 10 years ago or something like that now. 8 years-ish. So I went, screw companies, I don't want to work. I was living in Manhattan, working in the clothing industry. I can't be a part of this culture. I'm gonna live off grid. And I went like full anarchist, hippie, out in the woods. Kind of how I look at the moment, probably. Yeah, I moved to California, got a bunch of land, grew a bunch of weed, and I was like, this is it. Like, we just had so much fun. It was a blast doing it, but I swung the pendulum so hard to that side that, you know, you can't have a bank account. You're afraid of getting arrested. That part is key. I quickly realized that also was like a bit of an extreme, and man, where is the balance? Like, where can I find, you know, the sweet spot? In the meantime, while I was growing weed, and I had just come from New York, I'm sitting around with some friends, and we're like, man, everywhere up there delivers food. And at the time, down here, all you had was Rotellis and some crappy Chinese food. So we were like, man, we should start this delivery business, and we could deliver weed. How fun would that be? My mom is like shaking her head. My mom was very not cool with all of this, by the way. She knows all of it now, though, so. Yeah, and thank you, Mom, for continuing to tell me I was an idiot. So we were like, man, we could deliver weed. How cool would that be? Very stupid. Very, very lucky that now I could even talk about it. I think legally. I think I've asked my counsel that I could do this. And I started giving the speech at Lynn. I was like, the kids were so pumped that I was talking about delivering weed. But yeah, so I could legally talk about it and definitely wasn't able to legally do it at the time. So we delivered a lot of weed, and yeah, it was crazy. You would call up and you'd be like, hey, the special salad. And that's how delivery dudes got started. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And the end. This is, yeah, everyone usually loves that part of the story. It got way out of control, as anything really fun does usually. So we're growing weed in California, we're delivering it here. Craziness. Some things happened, and the reality of the severity of the repercussions that my mom was trying to tell me about all those years kind of came a little too close for comfort, let's just say, without getting into too much detail. And I was like, wow, this is not the direction that I want my life to go in. Hi, how's it going? And I pivoted. I was really lucky enough, too, to have somebody in my life that basically gave me an ultimatum, and I cared about her a lot. So I was like, all right, fine, I'm done. And we quit that, shut down shop in California, moved here. It was such a roller coaster. The clothing industry, you're making money, but you're miserable. And then California, like, you know, you start out there with nothing, and then all of a sudden you have all this money. And it's not about the money, it's about the energy. You have all these people around you and properties, and all of a sudden you're building this business, and then all of a sudden that just came crashing down, big time. And when I ended up back here after California, I was living above deck 84. I don't know if for those of you who live in Delray Beach, you guys know that there was this DD neon sign. Well, that was not only like our sign, that was my apartment. It was this little like just room, and I moved into it with my girlfriend at the time and my dog. And there was no shower in the building, so I'd run to the beach in the morning and like work out and take a shower. And I had nothing. I had negative. I had hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt. It swung again hard the other way. And all I had is this delivery business that I thought the best thing about it was that it was a front. So I literally was running deliveries to put food in my mouth. And my girlfriend's mouth, and Uzi's mouth, my little dog. And that was a really weird time. Everyone tells me all the time, they're like, man, you had such a good idea. Man, I can't believe you thought of this idea. And I was like, you don't know the story, because I ran this business for 6 months trying to figure out what I wanted to do, what I was gonna do next. Because for sure it wasn't deliver food. And I'm like, now I look back and I'm like, wow, I was not smart at all. So what happened was something very beautiful. I'm delivering food, just food, and I'm on my moped, and I'm in Delray Beach. I have negative something, and I'm happier than I had been in a really, really long time. I'm in the sun. I am high-fiving people everywhere I go. The business is simple. I don't have to schmooze. I don't have to pull one over on somebody. I was taught how to do sales. I could do that, but God, does it not feel good when you don't believe in what you're selling. And I am talking to restaurant owners and saying, hey, I just want to bring you more business. And they're like, we already give first responders a discount or something like that. And I'm like, cool, like, let me just bring you more business. And they're like, awesome. And then I pick up their food at a discount and I drive it to these customers' house, or I drive it to somebody on the beach, and they like obviously are stoked. Unless the food is cold, then they're not stoked. But majority of the time, they're just happy. And man, it made me happy just being able to be in a business that I was honest and happy about. And it just felt so good. And when you feel good, naturally things just kind of explode. And when you're doing something that you love, things grow. I didn't even, again, realize how much I loved it until Michael, who you heard in the beginning, we call him Papa Dude. He's like, hey man, like, this is actually kind of starting to work. And I'm like, what do you mean work? I'm trying to figure out what to do. And he's like, no, this business is actually working. And I think we could actually make money and grow this and do this. And so we really started getting after it. And that was about 6 or 7 years ago. And I'm gonna try to move this along. I don't know how much time I've already taken. But basically, then we created this really cool thing. I wasn't a Stanford grad. I wasn't a Y Combinator, startup guy. Now I understand that language. I understand how to raise money. I understand all of that whole end of the spectrum and how to scale a business differently than I did. But what we did at the time was all of a sudden more deliveries. Okay, well, I always say it like this too. More deliveries, well, created a problem because I couldn't do all the deliveries. So the problem was I need more people, and we need dispatch, and we need phone support, and X, Y, Z. So there's these problems, and this is all a business is, by the way. Problems come in, all right? The faster you solve those problems, the faster you get more problems. Really, so then you have more problems, and they're bigger problems. You grow, which causes more problems, and then you have to fix those problems again, and then so on and so forth. 7 years later, today, I will be solving problems. That's all I do. And how we solve the problem, which is kind of unique and cool, and again, damn, I'm forgetting to use the word water. I'm gonna tie water back into this. But like water kind of flowing, not knowing, some of the other tools that are accessible to people in today's capitalist, world, venture capital money and private equity money and all that kind of stuff. What we did is we grew through sweat equity. And what do I mean by that? So we created this whole internal we call it driver owner and operator program. And we created this dude's university thing. So what happens is our best drivers, upward mobility. It's the definition of upward mobility, all right? And it's just like as good as it gets. So drivers, the best drivers would come in and they would get good feedback, X, Y, Z, and we'd let them be dispatchers, and then they would move to managers, and then they would continue to do well within the business, and we would give them their own territory. We train them how to run their franchise, train them how to run a business, and we'd give it to them. And we'd contractually have an agreement with them and all that stuff, but go be the dude in your own town. That's how Delivery Dudes originally grew, and I believe how we created such an unbelievable culture. Especially with the generation, a lot of the talks that I give are about how to incentivize millennials, because everyone is very confused about millennials in the workforce. And we just naturally did it through transparency and upward mobility and creating opportunity. And that's what they care about. That's what young people care about. And being a part of a business that is good. And our mission has always been the same, which is, let's just make people's lives better. And that includes drivers. That includes restaurant owners. And when we're talking, I have a lot of the people here that are in meetings with me on a daily basis at headquarters too. When we're talking, and it's crazy and it's really cool to be a part of the culture, but when we're making business decisions, what we ask ourselves is what is the most loving decision to make? And I don't hear that a lot in other businesses, and I wish I did. Now, you can't make these hippie-loving decisions that put you out of business, all right? there's also that struggle balance between, you know, and I struggle between not liking capitalism and loving it and appreciating it. And you know, you really struggle with it. But if you constantly are asking yourself those questions, you can at least sneak it in there every little bit. And then sometimes you get a really big opportunity, and I know you're saying 2 minutes, but I'm gonna, okay, cool. So I'm gonna say, you know, you get a really big opportunity, and I wanna tell you guys about something that we're working on and that we're doing right now. How many of you guys have heard of 4Ocean? Wow, cool, that's awesome. So 4Ocean is an amazing company started by some of our friends, and they're cleaning up the oceans, and they're doing it in a really cool way. And we are Delivery Dudes in 4Ocean is doing a collaboration where we are going to be, you're going to see this at some point. I don't want to tell a date because we'll never hit it if I say it. But at some point we're going to have a 4Ocean opt-out button on our website very soon. And you're going to be able to opt out of silverware, single-use plastic silverware. And that is the beginning of, you know, what I believe is going to be a really powerful partnership, and we're going to pilot their restaurant program with them as far as to-go materials go, and really try to get rid of all the plastic waste out of the restaurants, because that's one of the things that, you know, I'm not only all my staff, myself, my partners, everybody, that's like, man, we do so good and everyone likes us, but damn, we produce a lot of waste. Can we figure out how to fix this? So that's a really cool partnership. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's exciting. It's exciting stuff for sure. And if you don't know about 4Ocean, like support, like I know the inside of their business now. They're legit, so support them. They're really great. To tie things up, you know, I was like, man, water. I am not a scientist, and my buddy's like, water, dude. It's hydrogen and oxygen and covalent bonds, and I'm like, what? Like I at the end of the day, I realized that, you know, I am water. Our earth is mostly water. Water is all around us, and when I think about water, what I think of is how it takes the shape of every glass, and if you try to squish it, it explodes and goes all over the place, and then kind of comes back together. Life and in business, you're constantly, you know, getting squished and poured out and moved. And I think the more, hi baby, see, go with the flow. I think the more that you let yourself go to the flow with water, being like water, I think the faster that you move along, and you know, I hesitate to use the word faith, but whatever it is for whoever, to kind of be able to let go a little bit and let the, you know, universe take you like water, you know, as it enters a glass, I think is really, really important. We think, and it's amazing, that we have all these thoughts and this brain that helps us think our way through everything and think of every possible issue and all that kind of stuff. And then at the same time, like once you kind of do that, let it go. And go with the flow, because there's, you know, a lot else going on that is profound. So, oh, and I'm about to be like, I'm done, and you guys are gonna go like this, hopefully, and make a noise with your hands. But before I do that, again, this is really rare that I have so much of my team here, or people that are delivery dudes. You know, I get to be the one to talk in front of people and stuff, but I didn't do this like alone. Like being a dude is being a part of a family and a culture, and it's all of them too. So if you know a delivery dude, or if you know a delivery dude, or you are a delivery dude, just raise your hand. Cool, there's guys in the back too. And yeah, now goodbye. Thank you, guys.